since the recusal has been granted, one may say it should have been granted before
I see.
testimony. And then what about all of the objections and motions that were overruled? And, what happened to that if Judge Glenville shouldn't have even been there? Or if
right.
Now, if you're not ready, then go ahead and tell me you're not ready.
I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives.
In other words, the car didn't hit him, and he wasn't hit by the car.
I'm not a lawyer, but are y'all keeping up? I'm not a lawyer, but
the debrief.
Hello and welcome to another episode of I'm Not a Lawyer, but
the debrief.
I am Melanie, aka I'm Not a Lawyer, but, and I am joined by my co-host
Goosebay. How y'all doing?
And before we get into this episode, we want to give a thank you to our sponsor, which is BetterHelp. We are going to tell you more about them in the episode. We are not legal experts. We're not lawyers at all, but we consume ourselves with all things legal and then bring them to you on this podcast, talk to you about our thoughts, what's been going on. And every now and again, we get to have a very special guest join us who is an expert in the field and knows way more than us.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the case for today. So we are so very excited to tell you that our guest for today is Miss Attorney Kayla Bumbus. So thank you for being here and joining us today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So you've probably had to be living under a rock if you don't know who Kayla Bumbus is. When it comes to the YSL RICO trial, one of the prosecutors, key witnesses, whose name is Kenneth Copeland, was brought to the stand, and his original attorney was not able to make it. And so then you were brought in as the stand-in attorney. Is that an appropriate way to describe it?
Yes.
Okay. So then you were brought in as the stand-in attorney. And then from that, you're in and there's this ex parte meeting that happens. All these things kind of come up, which has now really brought us. That was like the start of what brought us to where we are today, which is that Judge Glenville, the original judge on this case, has now been recused. Mm-hmm. There was another judge assigned. She recused herself. And now we are on the third judge, which was just assigned yesterday. But with the recusal of Judge Glenville, with that order from Judge Krause, I think is how to pronounce her name, there was some mention of you and one of the motions that your attorneys had brought up. Can you just talk, you don't have to go, spend too much time, but can you just talk about what your attorney's, that motion was and kind of what the order was in regards to you? Yours was, it was denied, but it was denied because it was moot. So can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So basically my attorneys had filed a motion to quash the show cause order.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pretty much just a motion to, in a lack of better words, dismiss or end or stop something because there's something wrong with the order or what was put out. And specifically, my attorneys believed that the order was very vague. It didn't put any language pertaining to what I was being in contempt of, what the behavior was. They just were saying that the show cause order wasn't valid. Also, just several different issues with Judge Glenville actually hearing that. And when he did that judicial notice reading on July 1st at that hearing, he stated towards the end that he had no interest in moving forward with the show cause.
Mm-hmm.
And so that pretty much made any motions that my attorneys had filed, moot or I guess no longer an issue. That's the best way to say what moot is. It's no longer an issue because the show cause hearing did not go forth and Judge Glenville stated he had no intentions on moving forward with it. Towards the end of that, one of my attorneys, Kristen Nove, got up and asked for him to, put that in an order, but he decided that that wasn't something he needed to do. So I pretty much got bunched bundled in with the defendants,
Right.
because there was no official order deeming that show cause order as moot. So
Got
that's
it.
all that
Okay.
was.
So you're done now, basically. When it comes to your involvement in the case, you're done now.
I hope so.
Amen. I hear it.
Is this a common thing where you have a attorney on deck just in case another attorney doesn't show up, or how does that?
like getting a stand-in, basically? Like, hey, can you cover this for me? Is that common?
And that's just friendship and colleagues. You know,
Really?
we just
Oh,
do
okay,
that
so
all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I think I've heard you talk about, not even I think, I have heard you talk about, because you've been doing lives and putting out, your story and growing your platform also, which is amazing. And we'll get all your information at the end. But you were talking about that you have previously represented Kenneth Copeland and some of the other defendants. And so can you talk about the kind of attorney you are, first off, because I know you do personal injury, but you also do criminal defense, and then just talk about your history with representing some of the defendants in this case.
Okay, yeah. So I pretty much, everybody knows that I started off in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. I was there for maybe 11 months, maybe just at a year.
Uh-huh.
I did not work under the Fonnie Willis administration. I worked under Paul Howard.
Okay.
But after I left the DA's office, I was doing 100% criminal defense. And I like it. I like it a lot. And I tried a few personal injury cases and I liked it a lot too. So
Okay.
I started to kind of transition into a split practice. It's split probably down the middle, about 50-50 between personal injury and criminal law. I've been very successful in personal injury and I'm very thankful for that. I've been very successful in criminal as well, but just combining them has grown my practice. So I represented Mr. Copeland probably about 2019, 2020, around that time, on a few different cases. And some of the other defendants, I have represented them on probation matters and bonds and things of that nature, but nothing directly related to the YSL trial.
Got it. Okay. So were you following this before you were brought in to represent Kenneth Copeland? Were you like keeping up with what was going on the whole time, or not really?
Not really. A little. I mean, I know some of these people personally, so they will call me all the time and ask me, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? But as far as logging in and watching all day, pretty impossible because I'm in court.
Yeah. Because you work, I get it. You're out being a lawyer.
Yeah, and then when I get home, I don't want to watch anything about court.
Yeah. I understand. So with what's happening now, we have this new judge on the case. What would be your next step? A lot of people are talking about motions for mistrials. Obviously, there's been a talk about that already and even motions for that. But what would be your next step? Would you be requesting a mistrial, and on what grounds? I think that's the other thing that I, who am not a lawyer, obviously, what are the grounds that the mistrial is being motioned for?
I don't know enough about what has happened. I don't know enough about what information the defense has because I was there for 2 days, and like I said, I hadn't been following. But I would assume that, they would have a few issues with the jury, and I guess an issue as to at what point Judge Glenville should have actually been recused because we heard Attorney Steele say when he first exposed the ex parte, could we please, pause the proceedings and have another judge or someone else hear this or to see what happens with the recusal. But Judge Glenville said we weren't pausing anything. So, since the recusal has been granted, one may say it should have been granted before.
Oh, I see.
Testimony. And then what about all of the objections and motions that were overruled? And, what happened to that if Judge Glenville shouldn't have even been there or if and then you also have the whole situation where it took 10 months to pick a jury. And it's like, But what do you do when the jurors show back up, whenever they show back up, and you have a new judge? How do you explain that to them? What confidence will they have in anything that has happened over the past 18 months?
Right. I just want to double down on the point that you just made, because it's such a good one, which is that if Judge Glenville should have been recused earlier than when he finally referred it over to another judge, if that should have been the stopping point and yet it wasn't, you can't undo everything that happened after that point for the jurors. They've heard all of this information that would theoretically they shouldn't have heard. And so now how do you undo that? And the reality is you really can't.
You can't.
That's insane.
And he throw the trial out, man. Throw it away.
Hello?
It's so much going on.
It is a lot.
Yeah. And then you're throwing somebody else into the fire, another judge.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that at least they should be. I think it's so unfair that they have to continue to remain in custody while Fulton County figures it out.
Right.
That's so unconstitutional to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is wild.
A lot of people ask questions about right to a speedy trial. This is not speedy trial. Can you talk about the right to a speedy trial? Because my understanding, right, if this were to be granted, a mistrial were to be granted, and they have the right to a speedy trial, so the state would have to decide if they are going to retry them within a period of time. So the next trial, you have a right to the start of a speedy trial, or the speed in which the next trial starts, but not necessarily how long the trial is going to take. Is that accurate? And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, it's accurate, but I think a lot of people's arguments when they discuss this topic is that the state has dragged this out and made it impossible to be a speedy trial. Like with the number of witnesses they called. I mean, like they called 3 witnesses, I believe, from Hertz that don't even work at Hertz anymore, just to prove who rented a car, I think. I mean,
I was about to say Hertz to rent a place.
Yes.
So, I mean, that I think in theory or in fact, they are saying that it's not speedy because of the state.
Mm-hmm. But it becomes really repetitive.
Yeah.
It becomes like, we need 3 people to testify. We get it. The car was rented. Can we move on? But that is not what happens. It does take multiple people. I think even the gang experts, which was a very interesting situation where they have 3 people from APD, coming on the stand, and it's like, it just becomes repetitive and cumulative, I think, is the objection for it. But of course, that constantly gets overruled. Thank you for doing this. Is there, as the questions are coming up, can you tell us where we can find you for everybody who wants to kind of tune in as you are, having your own conversations, which has been very interesting, and you've had some lives with Kenneth Copeland as well. So can you just talk about where we can find you?
So I have a YouTube channel, which is, I don't know what's going on with my YouTube, so it's really hard to find me, but it is at attorney KAYB. But people have been telling me that if you type my name in, it's easier to find me than typing in my handle. Mm-hmm. And I have TikTok. It's the PI_princess. It's the same. That's my Twitter as well, the PI_princess. And then on Instagram, it's Bless Squire. With 4 S's, BLESSSSQUIRE. But I've been trying to stay engaged on social media. It's really hard. It's really draining because I talk to people all day long, and then I have to come on here and try to talk to people some more all day long. And people are mean to me all day long. My clients are mean to me. The internet is mean to me. But for the most part, people are nice to me too. And I'm just, thankful for the opportunity to be able to, talk to people, answer questions, and give people a real perspective of what is going on. So,
There are a couple questions, and if you still have the time, I'd love to run through just some of them that have come through from the Patreon. Are you familiar with the newest judge that's been assigned? I've seen a lot about that she was has done like appellate court and all of that. I've seen on Twitter, on X, and all of that. A lot of people are saying great things about her, but we're questioning if you are familiar with her.
So when I was a prosecutor, Judge Whitaker was the deputy district attorney over the appellate division.
Okay.
At the same time that Bonnie Willis was the deputy district attorney over the trial division. At the same time that Adrian Love was the deputy district attorney over gangs. So I think that's interesting.
Very interesting.
Dang.
Oh, this is going to be very interesting. I'm gonna be tuned in tomorrow. They just announced there'll be a hearing tomorrow on Friday,
well,
and I'll be tuned
hearing?
in. I read that the defendants will not be there. It said like I think a status hearing. The defendants are not going to be there. It's just supposed to be the attorneys and the judge.
I'll be there. I'm going.
Ooh, amen to that.
No, I mean I'm gonna stop by for sure because I have court all day tomorrow, and I'm gonna be nosy.
Yes. Someone was talking about double jeopardy in this case and how it could attach. I won't even give my non-lawyer thoughts on it. I would love to hear your thoughts on if double jeopardy could actually attach in this case.
Well, I think the biggest grounds for double jeopardy to attach is if there's prosecutorial misconduct.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that would go. I mean, as we have seen, Fulton County definitely sticks together, as they should. I mean, any organization should, so I can't fault them for that. But I've been reading through these orders that Judge Cross put out regarding the recusal and just trying to see, if they'll be able to use that to tie in, some grounds or basis or evidence of prosecutorial misconduct. But I think that would be the biggest argument for for double jeopardy to attach.
Yeah. And I've been, just to even, again, double down on that, prosecutorial misconduct, like as in the defense would have to prove that this is a question, it sounds like a statement. They would have to prove that the state did these actions in order to get a mistrial granted, really, so that they can have a retry. They can have a do-over. Is that accurate?
Well, I mean, I guess just there are several things. I mean, I think they might talk about a lot of things. The ex parte. I mean, there are several things that they may allege that was improper.
Got it.
I mean, like in Alec Baldwin, how the process, like there's several bases for prosecutorial misconduct, in my opinion.
Okay.
Do you prefer being a lawyer or a prosecutor?
Ooh, good question. Well, not lawyer or prosecutor, or like a criminal defense.
Criminal
defense versus prosecutor.
Yeah, there we go.
It's a tough question because sometimes I feel like I would go back to the DA's office. I mean, the main thing that keeps me back from being a prosecutor is the amount of money I make and how I have my own time.
Yeah.
But being a prosecutor is fun, and it's like people don't understand that you have more power as a prosecutor to do the right thing than you do as a criminal defense attorney. As a criminal defense attorney, all I can do is beg, or go to trial. But as a prosecutor, I had the power to dismiss cases, to send people to programs, to, move around a little bit where it was appropriate. And, a prosecutor's job is definitely to seek justice. And sometimes justice is sending someone to diversion, sending someone to death reduction, sending someone to drug treatment. Sometimes that is justice. And you have that power as a prosecutor. So sometimes I miss that power. But I both of them have their pros and cons, but I like being able to move around, not have to take off work, and work from wherever I want to work at.
No, that's a good question. Okay, then last question, and then we can wrap on you is, can you talk about immunity and what happened in this case with Kenneth Copeland specifically? Because I, who am not a lawyer, incorrectly initially said that he agreed to immunity. And as it further came out, more information came out, what seemed to really happen is that immunity was forced on him.
Yeah. So when I initially went into the situation, I thought the same thing. I had not been given the explanation of, I don't even know if Melnick knew. I'm not sure. I can't speak to it, but I did not understand until about 45 minutes into the meeting what was going on. So I had been sitting there talking, going back and forth, but I did not understand that this was a type of immunity that he had not asked for until and it kind of clicked. And you can see it in the transcript where I have this aha moment and I say, wait, but what if he doesn't want this? Because I was so confused, like what? And I had never heard of it. I've never had heard of immunity being given to someone.
Oh, interesting.
In the efforts, I mean, because it was in the public interest or whatever.
Yeah.
I had never heard of that, and I'm like, huh? How is this for the public interest? I didn't understand. And I asked a few attorneys about it who are more seasoned than me, and a lot of them said that they had never seen it used this way.
Well, thank you again for joining us. I really appreciate you joining us. I know you are very busy, have a ton of things going on. So thank you for joining. We will definitely put all of your information in the description box, and we'll continue to be in touch. So have an awesome day, and we'll be looking for you to tell us what happens at the status hearing tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to scoot on over there and see. They might not let me in.
All right, have a good one.
Nice meeting you.
Bye.
Nice meeting you.
That was amazing. Thank you to our guest for joining us today, Attorney Bumbus. We will again. Oh, I forgot to ask her for information. But whatever we have, we will put in the description box. Please support them. Do all the things. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please support our sponsors as well. You support them, you support us. Okay, make them come back and keep sponsoring us. Thank you so much for being here. If you are watching this on YouTube and not a member of the Patreon, please join. I'm telling you, we do these conversations live with the Patreon. They get to ask all the questions that we are missing or not thinking about, get to be a part of the conversation. It's a good time. Follow me on I'm Not a Lawyer, but on all of the places. Okay, Twitter and not Twitter. Hello, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Where can they find you?
Goolsby, that's GOOLZBY on IG, and Building with Goose on YouTube.
And with that, we say bye. You gonna cue us out?
Court has been adjourned.
I love it. Bye, y'all.